$500 on me in 5 minutes, and I didn't feel that this was fair. So they said that they would get back to me. Well, they talked to the president, and they got back to me and set up a new closing date for about a month later. So a month later, I went to the closing, and I thought they were going to fix things, but it was basically the same thing, only they lowered my monthly payment and raised the sale price to $152,000 instead of $137,000. And I wasn't feeling comfortable at the closing both times. I kept asking them if I was still going to be on title on my house, and they said yes. At the time, I thought, okay, I have to do this just because I had a divorce, back surgery, and I just wanted to keep my house. I found out that this was wrong, and I did not have title on my house. Ron Esau has title on my house. I was shocked. Now I'm stuck, and this is why we need to have laws against white-collar crimes. Laws should be fair no matter who they are. There are tons of laws out there on the books for blue-collar crime, and why is it so hard to pass laws for white-collar crime? This is why we are here today, to ask you to pass a strong legislative law. We hear things about people we don't trust, politicians. Today we need you to show us that we can trust you. There's 59 of us. On our committee. 7 of us are in our houses, and the other 52 are homeless or in a 1- or 2-bedroom apartment. And this is why we need to pass a law to stop these kind of crimes. Thank you.
Officer, thank you. Thank you. Officer, yes, Senator Metson.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt, but one of the things that troubles me here is, when you hear this again when everybody begins your proposal, you applied for the loan yourself at Northwest Bank, right? And it almost sounds like a financial institution led you to another party or steered you there, right? That kind of role as a banker when you go in, on your own, for yourself. I don't know if I heard it correctly, but I don't think that's proper. Probably might border on beating yourself. I'm not an attorney, but am I making myself clear? You kind of said, did you go in, you applied for a loan?
Ms. Alcazar, were you responding to an ad? Or?
No, I
misunderstood.
Okay, I've been in mortgage for 20 years, and I've never heard of this. I went searching out refinancing because I knew I needed to do something, and I felt if I refinanced, I could catch up on everything and have a lower payment. And
I understand all of that.
Okay, I called around, and they said, yeah, they could help me. They find a program. Well, I waited. They confirmed that they would, Northwest Mortgage. They confirmed that they could help me, so I waited for them to help me. I stopped there because I had been turned down by other people, and they said that they could help me. Well, as time got closer to the sheriff's sale, then they came up and told me, well, we have a private investor.
Madam Chair, I heard you correctly, but I'm just trying to figure out, I got to think about this and maybe ask somebody, Commerce or Hatch or somebody that sounds like steering, and it sounds like it's not right. If you're indeed working with them, then I probably with that so far.
Okay, Senator Ryder.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Maybe I've just had the good fortune of working with a few very good attorneys who give great advice and don't charge an arm and a leg for it. But I will tell you that when I've dealt with anything in the real estate area, I don't go forward without somebody passing approval on what I'm going to do, because I don't know enough about it in all instances to go in there without some professional advice. So did you ever at any time contact an attorney to ask whether this was something that they would advocate? And most of the time they'll do that for what I consider a very reasonable fee.
Ms. Alcazar, I suspect if you're in foreclosure, any kind of expenditure that you have to make outside of trying to keep your head above water is probably pretty steep, but
my understanding when I walked in there is I was refinancing with Northwest Mortgage, and I would be making my payments to them. I felt I was walking in there to refinance my property, and once I got in there is when they, sitting at the closing, is when they threw all this other stuff at me.
Yes, Senator Ryder, I don't think most people take a lawyer with them to a
No.
refinance.
I mean,
But the thing is, Madam Chair, if you're looking around because you think that, because your home is going to be foreclosed on, I guess I would put it to you that if you can get $50 or $100 for a fee to save that versus putting out $1,400 a month or $1,200 a month or whatever for mortgage payments, which I consider high, to me that would be money well spent. So that's why I asked it.
Thank you. Senator Anderson, do you have anything else?
Madam Chair, we also have Paul Satriano. I'm sorry, I should have had him sit up here with us. We'll have to squeeze in. Or I can.
That's great.
All right, I'm going to take that spot. Thank you. From ACORN. Thanks. Okay, I didn't get you up here.
Mr. Satriano, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Paul Satriano, and I am the chairperson of Minnesota ACORN's Financial Justice Committee. Minnesota ACORN has been involved in fighting foreclosure rescue scams for over a year. And it's amazing how many people are out there to prey on hapless victims. But what we want to talk to you today about is a cancer that is growing in our society, and they're called foreclosure scams. It is a cancer that knows no boundaries. It doesn't care if you're a Democrat, a Republican, an independent. This cancer doesn't affect just Minneapolis and St. Paul. As you can see in your package, you have 55 other communities that it affects. This cancer affects just about every community, even as far as Duluth. We need to pass a strong bill to stop this cancer. We don't want just to control it. You can control cancer any way you want, but then it'll come back. We want to eliminate it, get rid of it for good. And we need a bill with teeth, like the one the Attorney General wants to put through. ACORN has worked with it, and I think it's a great bill. ACORN and our sister organization, ACORN Housing, have been working a number of ways to help people avoid these scams. We've been doing it with education. We have been subscribing to legal newspapers so we can get the same thing that these foreclosure scam artists get. We made brochures like you have in your packet, just like this, that we send to these people. And we do it in orange so they know they got something different. The brochure warns people of these scams, explains the foreclosure process, the timeline, and phone numbers where they can get help. We have mailed over 1,000 of these brochures and held several community events, which some of the legislators have attended. And we've notified people about these scams. We've also been seeking out people who have been ripped off by these scams. And we've tried to get lawyers, but lawyers say these are so hard to prosecute that they won't take it pro bono. Well, if you lose your house, you don't have any money to pay a lawyer. That's why we need a bill, and we need these practices to be stopped that are illegal. They don't need another piece of paper to confuse them. They need a law to protect them. Please don't let special interests ruin this bill. We the people need a bill. It's time we come together, not as left wing or right wing, but just as one voice to show these crooks that they can't get away with what they're doing. It's as simple as that. The con artists who commit these scams have no concerns for people who they rob. As far as I'm concerned, they don't have a heart. Good, hard-working people who could be your children, your relatives, your mother or your father, are being conned. Please help us. Because at this point, you have the power to make things right. Show Sandy and Mike that you do have the power. And you do feel for them. And let's get this law passed. Thank you very much.
Mr. Satriano, thank you, and thank you for good work here. I think this is it's very instructive. If members haven't looked at it, it is helpful to understand at least the subject that's before us. Are there
When I was evicted, the wild fish was there, and the ACORN members are helping. But all night long, to get stuff out of my house, I made sure my kids got morning and forced me to leave, saying that I had 60 days and that I could make appointments with them to go back in and get my things. I had signed an agreement basically to buy time trying to come up with his money, but he had inserted a agreement that whatever I left behind was his for $100. He had a representative there in front of the sheriffs and kept shaking his head, yes, if they don't want my things, and yes, I could come back in, yes, that's the law, I have 60 days, because the sheriffs looked at the agreement and said, you know.
Okay, this may be the case, however, that's after the 60 days is up. This doesn't say on the date of the eviction. This is talking, what this says is if Brown fails to remove all of Brown's personal belongings from the premises. It doesn't stipulate a time period, and the law says you have 60 days. On the same page. The landlord agreed that she does have 60 days to come back and get her property. So that's exactly what we talked about.
I've been back and forth with him ever since. I'm now involved in another lawsuit on my own, trying to retrieve anything that's left because there's people that have been in my house taking things. It's really a degrading experience.
Susan! What did Henry Grant do to you, Susan?
Yeah.
Henry Grant said I could rent and then buy my home back. I was set up from the beginning, and now he has more than half of my personal property because I signed an agreement that what I left behind he could have for $100. This is in direct violation of Minnesota law, and I'm wondering how much of my stuff is in this house right here. What kind of person steals a person's personal belongings, will not allow them back in their home to retrieve pictures of their children and items that can never be replaced? All my Christmas ornaments, things like that have meaning to my life are gone because he has stolen them.
Do you have a winter coat, Susan?
I have no clothes. I made sure my children got their things. I have no clothes, no shoes, no winter coats, not a sweater, not a sweatshirt. What kind of person enjoys doing this to someone? This is not right. This person is evil. And if it isn't against the law, we need to make it against the law. People should not have their lives